Everybody here shares in the belief that being deaf is not a handicap, not something to fix. All these kids, all of us, need to be reminded of it.
The Sound of Metal is, willingly or unwillingly, through no choice of its own, a product of its time.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know. A Washington state resident fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China.
To have watched this film in the latter stages of a pandemic impacts how we perceive it now. And for a young person in an era of isolation, its most principal effect is achieved through wish fulfillment. This film acts as a powerful antidote for women who feel perplexed by the men in their lives and often don't know how to help. Because Lou acts swiftly, decisively, and she neuters all of Alan's masculine defensive mechanisms. She stares down the gut of his exorcisms of rage and pushes him down the path he must go. There's something patronly, saintly, all healing about this type of care, and of course, utterly unrealistic. This is something that will appeal to women perplexed by men, but such creatures are becoming less and less common. The subjectivity of male-female relationships is so twisted at this point that we need these mythologies to stay sane, because we've all implicitly realized that there's no rhyme or reason to male angst. Because of this very objective lack of reason, a lot of women have just jumped ship. So the real seat of emotional envy in this movie lies with men who feel unintelligible to everyone they know.
Well, then fucking support me. How's about that? Fucking support me, Lou. Huh? You don't want to be here?
Of course I do.
I knew it. I fucking knew it. I fucking knew this was coming. I fucking knew it. This is about to fucking help.
The biggest lie of our era when it comes to men is not that we ever feel ashamed to ask for help or that we identify the expression of emotions as feminine. Men do not fail to ask for help because they are scared of some judgment. Men fail to express their emotions because they are convinced, and for good reason, that absolutely no one will care. Men given the platform to express what they are, who feel vindicated and righteous, will have no problem engaging the hysterics projected onto women for centuries. Men raised in the 21st century are not taught that there is a weakness in emotion, rather they are taught, or they gradually learn, that their feelings are not worth caring about, so they should in tandem not act like they are important. I found myself absolutely captivated by how relatable and in a very deep, twisted, perverse way enviable these figures were. And I imagine the same energy flows through the veins of many who watch this film. Of course, ultimately, the effect is to reinforce the exact energy it relies on, because only a tragic figure beset by the most tragic circumstances possible, in the form of a drummer losing his hearing, could garner the type of attention one needs. Only a heroin addict will get the support they seek. In a year where so many of us failed to receive the mentorship we needed and settled into cabin fever, our senses dulled, and everything that once seemed to matter faded. I think on a widespread scale, everyone is doing the worst they ever have mentally, and that's not some deeper statement, just a statement of fact. An extension from ourselves, what's worse is the people we've forgotten and the people we thought we had forgotten. Everyone now lives in a landscape of trauma and amnesia, and that's why this film is immediately captivating. It besets us in the post-traumatic hellscape of life in 2021, where the worst is behind us and a support system exists. In a country with no socialized healthcare, it's not at all a surprise to me that this type of a film would get made. Sound of Metal depicts the story of a man past his problems, at the behest of a support system that assures he will never spiral out of control, ever again. That is what every young individual in this country currently needs, and what every single one lacks. We shout out our mentors in Facebook posts and assume we have real community. but we all do so with the sense of dread that only the conspiracy of silence can bring. This film seems, to my eye, like a thought from the future arrived at the perfect time, because it works toward an honest depiction of where we're trying to be, not today, but 5 years from now. I think in the traumatic post-COVID landscape, everyone is trying to live and see where they will be 5 years from now, because nothing has been as ugly and fleeting as the present. Its projection of ruin is just that, a projection on a screen, a man past his problems. Therein lies the nostalgia for the future that any viewer of this film in 2021 can pinpoint. I believe that COVID and the art landscape to emerge after this fact is one that unapologetically looks toward the future, and every film that succeeds will be able to engage in similar nostalgias for the future. I would be stupid to label this as a futurism, but the situation we occupied after World War I is similar if we were merely to subtract technological optimism that the nuclear bomb deemed impossible. Now, what exactly I say when I say nostalgia for the future, you'll have to stick around and watch more of my content for, so I'd recommend you subscribe. But let's move on and ask a deeper question. Whose wish does this film fulfill? Young people, first and foremost, because the role of parent has been abdicated to that of a distant viewer. If the role of male and female were to be reversed, it would lose a significant amount of its power because it draws its effect from a specifically male-oriented wish fulfillment. There are plenty of examples of female-oriented wish fulfillment I'd like to discuss in some other videos, because that stuff is a lot more subtle and craftily put together, and that's because it can be. Honestly, the third act of this movie kind of sucks, and they even managed to convert her scars from a subtle point of relatability in the opening 10 minutes to an obvious white knight affair.
Oh, no scratching, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I don't really believe this film can ever be experienced except in its first act and a half. There's some very interesting technical aspects to how the film was made. Thomas Flight here has an excellent video on that topic, but I don't think I have anything more to add to that discussion because it's been recorded pretty well. More so than exactly what they do with the sound and how they remove different frequencies, which any editor can do, it's more so the style and care for sound that is impressive. People remember this film for its sound, in particular the way the sound plays out in the first act and a half. I absolutely adore these ambient morning type of scenes with the rustling and the cuts from one audio cue to another. How they layered them to later inform us of his deafness was obvious and obviously brilliant. I like to call this style of filmmaking impressionistic because it relies on sort of impressions that you get through juxtaposition. We're hit hardest in the morning by that vertigo when we're out of the one space and can't quite believe it ever happened. But on to the rest of the day, eh? This, more than anything, is again a communication of trauma, which always lives strongest in these ambience as an afterlife. Many an addict don't receive this help. Many people who self-harm don't have someone to make sure they're not. Many women can't respond to the anger and frustration of men in adequate ways. And many men cannot deal with the inadequacy of feeling they can't be cared for. That's that. So, watch this movie and tell me what you think, but don't comment some basic shit.